dear students. Okay, we have finished most of the topics in our FIT sessions, that is Fundamentals of Information Technology, and we have covered one complete chapter from first unit. Okay, so in today's session, we'll be taking up with the second chapter, and it is like this: computer organization and architecture. So you have a course in the first semester, right? COA, or computer organization and architecture, right? So this is a chapter which is going to introduce about the concept. What is that computer organization? What is its architecture? We are just trying to introduce what exactly, or what is the idea, or what is the concept of architecture in for a computer system. Okay, whereas you will be studying in detail in a much more better way with the respective subject, that is computer organization and architecture. In this session, I will start with the introduction of the term architecture. Okay, so what exactly architecture means? If you are observing in the real world, whatever the design happens, either it could be of a which one constructing a building. Okay, I mean to say in the construction process, it may be a building or it may be a machinery, okay, which is actually being designed, which is actually getting designed to perform certain tasks. Are you all understanding? So before such designs are happening, the thing is we have to design in what way or what components has to be connected so that that model should be functional. Did you all understand? So in the same way, like as any building you take, which will be having some levels of detail. For example, it could be a what living room, or some waiting room, or some kitchen or washroom, anything you take as a compartment, they'll be including their own size and the way or the other components which are being connected to it. For example, it could be the door, windows, placing in which exact direction, all such things matters, right? So even in a computer, like how it is visible for us, it is a visible structure, but how its architecture is designed. Okay, what is that architecture? What is that term? It is defined as a science of selecting and interconnecting hardware components to create computers that meet functional, performance, and cost goal. It means where we are trying to assemble many hardware components and trying to check whether they are meeting the functionalities. What is that functionalities? For example, whether it may be accepting the data from the user, the way it has to get processed, like for example how the processor has to get the data from the main memory, and the placement of memory near the processor, like how I told with the registers or whatever the types of memory, or the disk, when the computer wants to access the data from the disk, so where exactly it has to be placed. Okay, and similarly the rate at which the instructions get executed, okay, how efficiently with robustly the things or the task gets completed by the computer, all such things matters. Okay, then extending the concept of the architecture and making these hardware components work in a harmonized manner to achieve a common objective in an environment is known as computer organization. That is, fine, we are assembling, we have shortlisted which are the major components that are required to form an architecture, but how it has to be placed, how it has to be designed, connected, okay, how it has to be placed, all such things matters. For example, if the processor is ready to fetch the data from the memory, so the memory should contain certain data in it, only then the processor can take the data from the main memory, right? So how the information has to be passed to the memory, that is, there are certain steps where we have to first check the drivers, the input drivers which are receiving the input, like for example keyboard or mouse, how those drivers are storing the data, how that stored data is transferred to the main memory. Then the data is collected from the main memory by the processor to process the instruction step by step. How it is storing back the data, how again it is going to display to the user. All such thing like one by one the components or the what components which are involved in the computer should perform their respective functionalities. So checking all such functionalities in a proper manner. Okay. Uh, in order to what we have, why or we have to check this particular what the components are working correctly or not, because to achieve a common goal, what is that common goal? That the task get executed to the user. Okay. And computer organization is like something, a team of people who work together to achieve a common goal. So all of their aim is to what, to perform the instructions in a correct sequence so that the common goal, common goal means what the user expects, such type of results are given back to the user. Okay, for example, a football team where different members of the team play specific roles in the game. So you all are familiar with the football game, and how the teams are formed, and there in that team all the members who play as a team, they are having their own roles, right? That is, it could be a goalkeeper or anyone like that, right? So they are having their own task, but ultimately what is the aim of them? To reach the destination or to win the game, right? So the role of a goalkeeper is to safeguard the goal. Similarly, other members of the team, like for example they could be a striker, midfielder or any defender, they have their own respective roles to perform. Okay, the ultimate objective of the team as a whole is to defeat the opponent by scoring more goals than the opponent. So that is the main objective. However, whatever the role they play, ultimately they should what? Score more goal with the opponent team, and hence the study of computer organization focuses more on the collective contribution from the hardware peripherals than individual electronic components. So it is something like how the storage unit it could be, or the processor, or the arithmetic logic unit, how these are performing their functions when they are connected to the peripherals. Peripherals, for example, it could be some storage unit or some, I mean, hard disk or external memory when it is connected, and at the same time, input output peripherals if they are getting connected, how they are fetching the data from those peripherals and trying to execute in a sequence manner in order to execute what the user wants. So let us go in detail with the CPU. This we have discussed in our earlier classes, right? Central processing unit. So let us discuss much more with the CPU here. The central processing unit, it is actually referred to as a brain of a computer system, and it converts data into meaningful information. For example, whatever the input I give before the computer starts executing. So my input data is what? We call it as what? Simply a data. It doesn't have any information back to me. Only when the computer performs certain tasks and it is giving me the result, only then I can say it as a meaningful output or information. And it is a very complex, extensive set of electronic circuitry which executes stored program instructions. So whatever the instruction we have fed to the program, we have written in the program, according to that instructions the tasks get executed. Okay, and it is what, with the help of electronic circuitry. Electronic circuitry in the sense like as you all know, the microprocessor chip is being encompassed with very discrete components, right? Yes, it is having the memory with the transistors or whatever the capacitors to handle the flow of control, right? So with all, with the extension of electronic circuitry that exists, beyond that it tries to execute what the instructions which are being programmed in such a way in order to achieve the exact goal what the user wants to view. Okay, it controls all internal and external devices, performs arithmetic logic operations, and operates only on binary data, that is data composed of ones and zeros. So till now I was taking the term as machine level language, right? So here we are taking as what? Binary data. Machine level language is also the language in zeros and ones, so the same as binary. Okay. In addition, it also controls the usage of the main memory to store data and instructions, and controls the sequence of operations. So whenever the processor is working, is trying to execute the instruction, the temporary data, intermediate results, whatever it is trying to execute. Okay, it is storing actually in the registers, right? Yes, it is a main working memory I told in the previous sessions. So the main memory, that is RAM, which is going to actually give the data to the processor and also stores back the information when the things are executed in a particular sequence. Let's check out this. This is a processor. There's a system component where the input unit, output unit, and the processor you are having, and which are the three parts here: control unit, arithmetic logic unit, and memory, right? Yes. So the storage, the secondary storage actually stores what? Data and programs which are used or which will be accessed for the later executions. Okay. So this in the CPU, these are the main subsystems which I have discussed in the previous chapter: ALU, control unit, and registers. And these three subsystems work together to provide a better operational capabilities for a computer. And arithmetic logic unit, what is this? This contains the electronic circuitry that executes all arithmetic and logical operations on the data made available to it. So it is a circuitry where the arithmetic and logical operations are executed, uh, okay, particularly with the calculations. The data required to perform the arithmetic and logical functions are inputs from the designated registers. So where these informations to perform the calculations for the in the arithmetic logical unit, where do they get the data? Those datas taken from the user, it will be stored in the registers. So the ALU fetches the information as well as instructions from the registers. Okay, and the which one answers are also stored in the registers. Okay, the ALU comprises two units. Actually it has two units, one is arithmetic unit and another one is logic unit. Now let us understand what is arithmetic unit. So these are what the basic arithmetic operations or calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So in this circuit, arithmetic unit is a circuit which is responsible for performing these basic computations, arithmetic calculations. Okay, and it can also perform those operations at a very high speed. With a very higher speed, the execution happens. And coming with the logic unit, as I told you in the previous session, logical unit, for suppose if anything has to be if there are two conditions, and if there are cases in the logical condition where that it has to be executed, the result has to be processed only when the two conditions are become true. If any, or there are also logical operations where out of two condition, if any one of the condition is satisfied also, it may process the things. Okay, so these are the various methods we find in logical unit. The logical unit enables the CPU to make logical operations based on the instructions provided to it. These operations are logical comparison between the data items. The unit can compare numbers, letters, or special characters, and can then take action based on the result of the comparison. Suppose if the instruction is like this. Listen carefully for the logical unit I am telling. I want to check whether a number is what even or odd. Did you all understand? So if my first number is 2, okay, what is the basic logic you are putting to find whether the numbers are even or odd? The basic strategy what you are putting is any number which is divisible by 2 is referred to be as what? Even number. So other numbers which are not is referred as what? Odd number. Did you all understand? So like that. So one condition should be satisfied. What is that condition? On checking whether the number is divisible by 2. If it is true, okay, then the respective action has to happen. This is one condition. There is another way. For example, to check among the two condition, if any one of the condition becomes true also, what the things may work. Okay, what is that? Either one of them is true. For example, if I'm telling the students who have scored above 75%, above 75%, and within 80%. Okay, the students who have scored above 75% and less than 80%, or the students who have scored above 80%. Did you all understand? The students who are where either 75 to 80 or the students above 80. These are the eligible candidates what I am selecting. Did you all understand? So here either any one of the condition may be true. If it becomes true, then the required operation gets executed by the processor. So these operations are logical comparison between data items. So here the logical unit means you are simply comparing some existing data. That's all. The unit can compare numbers, they may compare letters or special characters and can then take action based on the result of the comparison. So on comparing either the numbers or the text means letters or some special characters, according to the comparison whether the user wants all the conditions to be true or any few conditions are true, according to the user what requirement, the respective actions will be taken. And these operations of logic unit test for 3 conditions. So which are those 3 conditions? It works for 3 conditions, and that is equal to condition. So what is that equal to condition? In this particular strategy, the arithmetic logical unit compares two values and to determine whether they are equal. So it is going to compare two conditions. If both the condition becomes equal, then it tries to execute the things. For example, if the number of tickets sold is equal to the number of seats in the auditorium, then the concert is declared sold out. I hope you all understood this. So the number of available seats is equal to what? The number of tickets which are being sold out. It means the concert or the auditorium is full, and that is why it is declared as what? Sold out. That is, all the seats are being what? Occupied. Then less 2 condition. What is this second condition? One was equal condition. So to test this condition, the ALU compares values to determine if one is less than the other. So among 2 conditions, it tries to check whether one of them is less than another. For example, if the number of spending tickets on a driver's record is less than 3, then insurance rate is rupees 425. Otherwise, the rates are rupees 500. So the number of tickets, here they have taken some spending of tickets on a driver's record is what? If it is less than 3, okay, then what should be the insurance rate? Should be 425. Otherwise, if the number of spending tickets on a driver's record is not less than 3, it is more than 3, exceeding, then the insurance rate will be how much? 500. Okay, so this is what the condition. If any one condition gets satisfied, according to that condition, the amount get attached. Okay, so here the first condition, if the first condition, that is the speeding tickets on a driver's record is less than 3, if the tickets on a record is less than 3, then what will be the insurance rate? 425. If it is exceeding 3, then the rate of that insurance will be how much? 500. Okay, like that. Then greater than condition. In this type of comparison, the computer determines if one value is greater than the other. For example, if the number of hours works in a week is greater than 40, then every extra hour multiplied by 1 5 times the usual hourly wage to compute the overtime's pay. So greater than condition. Here they try to compare with another value. One value is compared with the another value, and the very example is what is the actual number of hours a person works in a week, and if that actual hours is exceeding the 40, actual hours is 40 and that number of hours is exceeding 40, then how the amount of data has, or the amount has to be added, or extra hour has to be added to the amount. That is, then every extra hour will be multiplied by 1.5 times and the usual hourly wage will be computed with respect to that pay. Okay. Okay, now with the registers. So this I have already explained in our earlier classes. The registers are nothing but the special purpose high speed memory units. I have told that it is a temporary memory which is placed very nearer to the processor, where the intermediate or the very needful data are stored in the near the registers, right? So in the register, so whenever the processor is performing a task, it fetches the data from the registers. These are temporary storage areas for holding various type of information, such as it could be a data, it could be some instruction. That is, for example, if the processor is executing the first instruction, the register there in the memory, it will be holding the very next instruction which the processor has to take up. Similarly, the addresses, in case if the information is stored in any particular address block, okay, so it will be holding that address ready in case if the processor wants to fetch that data and the intermediate results of the calculations. Essentially, they hold the information that the CPU is currently working on. So whichever the data the CPU is working at that present situation, such data are held by the registers, and these registers can be considered as the CPU's working memory. So the present working memory will be referred as what? The registers, and an additional storage location that provides the advantage of speed. So the purpose of having this working memory is in order to gather the data that are required by the processor in order to make its execution very faster and efficient. Okay. So next is, as soon as a particular instruction or a piece of data is processed, the next instruction immediately replaces it and the information that results from the processing is returned to the main memory. So as and when the each instructions get executed by the processor, that piece of information what was generated by the processor will be what? Getting loaded to the main memory. Which are the common registers available? So I'm telling that registers are the working memory of the processor, right? So which are those common registers? Let me list some of them. Program counter, memory address register, accumulator, data register. Okay, so these are some common registers. Let me introduce with the very commonly used registers and their importance in this particular slide. What is that program counter? See, it keeps track of the next instruction to be executed. Suppose if you are having some 5 instruction, okay, the program counter, like if the CPU is executing very first instruction in that, so the counter will be holding how many? 1 is in running state, so the remaining is how much? The counter value will be what? Initially it will be 5. when the processor is executing one of the instruction, the program counter will be having um, how many that number it has, it will be tracking is, it is 4 remaining instructions. Similarly, when the first instruction got executed by the processor, it picks up the next instruction from the counter. So now the counter is holding how many? Among 5, the second instruction is getting executed, so there are again 3 to be executed, like this. So it keeps track of the instruction which has to be executed by the user. And memory address register, what is this? It holds the address of the next location in the memory to be accessed. It means it is a register which is not keeping the data, direct data. Okay, for example, if I am asking the address of your friend, you you are having the, if you are knowing, you will be giving me the correct exact address of your friends. Suppose if you are not knowing, what you will be doing, assume that you are referring another person who is surely knowing the address of your friend's house. Okay, so that is, when I am asking you the information, you are referring the address of some other person where I'll be getting the address of your friend. Did you all understand? So you are not directly giving the address, instead you are giving the, referring the address through some other person. So like that, memory address register means it doesn't hold the data directly, instead it holds the address of the memory location where exactly the data is available. Okay, and accumulator, it is also one of the register. It is a very general common register, general purpose register, which is used for storing temporary results and results which are produced by arithmetic logical unit. For example, if I am performing an addition, if the processor has performed the addition, whatever the added data was found, okay, that added data or addition data will be addition result will be held in the accumulator. Similarly, if subtraction happen, the result of that subtracted data will be stored in accumulator, like that. So all these temporary results on performing with the arithmetic operators, those results will be stored or held in the accumulator. And data register, it is used for storing the operands and other data. What is that operands? For example, if I am performing an addition with the numbers 3 and 2, here 3 and 2 are the data what I am giving, and plus is a operator. What is it? Plus is a operator. So 3 and 2, with the numbers what I refer or what I input, they are operands. What is it? Operands. 3 plus 2 plus is a operator. 3 and 2 is referred as a operand. So the data register is used to store the operands and other data. That is, it will be holding the data, current data that is required by the processor in order to what substitute the values when the arithmetic logical unit are trying to calculate or work on some calculation by either comparing or by trying to execute certain instructions that are framed by the user. Okay, so while executing that, whatever the data that is required, for example, the memory address register is holding the address of the next location in the memory to be accessed. That is, it is holding the address of the such memory location where I'll be getting the next data to be substituted in my calculations. So whatever the data that memory address is holding, that data are held in which one? The data register. So whatever the addresses are referred in that particular memory addresses, what data are stored, those data are held in data register. Okay. Then coming to the discussion with the control unit. So the control unit of the processor contains circuitry that uses electrical signals to direct the entire computer system to carry out or execute stored program instructions. It means they are having such a circuitry which is going to make use of the electronic or electrical signals to tell the computer how to carry or how to manage the input signals or the incoming data and how to give back the information, okay, output, or how to execute the stored program set of instructions. It is going to tell, it is a circuitry which is going to guide the entire computer system, which with the help of its signals, it will be telling where the input has to flow, where the output data has to be flown, where the when as soon as the memory is holding the process data, where the data has to be shifted or transferred. All such uh, functions are handled by which one? The control unit. And the control unit doesn't execute program instructions, rather it directs other parts of the system to do so by communicating with both ALU and memory. So as an individual component, control unit by itself, it doesn't do any work. Instead, it tries to monitor the other part of the. So overall, I can tell that a person who is trying to monitor other members who are working in a system, like the way they are performing their job is according to the sequence, okay, without any clash in the functional functions what they are executing. Okay, it is what the job of the control unit. It controls the input output devices and transfers of data to and from the primary storage. Which what is the meaning of primary storage? That is, in case if the input I am receiving is through keyboard or monitor, it checks whether those input informations are what shifted to the memory for the execution part. And as soon as the CPU is ready to execute the things, it tries to check whether those stored data are retrieved by the or reached to the which one? Arithmetical logical unit. Okay, and as soon as those units perform their processing, the results are whether they are getting stored in the primary storage. Did you all understand? These are the things that are monitored by the control unit. It the control unit itself is controlled by individual instructions in the programs located in the primary storage. So as I told you, it by default it is not doing a particular task. Instead, monitoring, managing all other components itself is a duty of the control unit. So the control unit itself is being controlled by each individual instructions which are written in the programs located in the primary storage. For example, it could be ROM, read-only memory, where the instructions are written in such a way that how the systems has to get booted up when it is put on. Did you all understand? So the control it actually exists in the instructions of the program. Did you all understand? So each individual instructions are that are there in the programs itself is what the control. Okay, instructions are retrieved from the primary memory one at a time. So obviously, if there are some multiple instruction, one by one the instructions get loaded to the memory, and one by one in a sequence it gets executed. Each instruction is interpreted so that it can be executed. So that is all the instructions that are there in the main memory. Before it gets stored into the main memory, all that instructions which are written in high level language, it will be interpreted to the zeros and ones, and then it will be what executed. Based on the instruction, the control unit controls how other parts of the CPU and in turn, the rest of the computer system should work so that the instructions are executed in a correct manner. So, according to the instruction, the control unit's job is what? To check how the other parts of the CPU, it could be the arithmetic unit, logical unit, or the memory, okay, or the other peripheral devices, how it should work in a harmony so that the instructions are executed properly, how the user has been programmed. Okay, so this is a what block diagram of a computer component. Just check this, the processor itself has three parts. It is what put in one block: control unit, ALU and register, input unit and output unit, and the memory. Just check out here the input, whatever the input are given to the system. Just check out here those inputs flows to the processor. Okay, then it will be actually first shifted to where the main memory. From the main memory, what the processor takes up those data, performs arithmetic logical unit, and the temporary results are stored in the registers. So once it is getting processed, the information is passed back to the memory, then from the memory where it will be displayed with the help of a output unit. Okay, fine. Now another important concept in computer organization and architecture is system bus. What is the meaning of system bus? A bus is a set of collections between two or more components or devices which are designed to transfer several or all bits of a word from source to the destination. See, you might be knowing or some may not know what is the meaning of bit. Okay, see, the instructions are converted. The high level language is converted to machine level language, and these machine level language are actually written in either zeros or ones, right? So when a instruction, for example, we call it as a word or one byte. Normally the datas are termed as bytes, right? We all know the meaning of byte in the sense how much bytes of data. It is a common term what we make use when the information are stored in the computers, right? Yes, what is that byte? Byte is nothing but it is a collection of bits of data. Okay, so one byte means it comprises how many bits? 8 bits. How many? 8 bits, and 8 bits forms a word. What is it? One word is equal to how much? One word is equal to how much? It could be 8 bits. Okay, so a bus is a set of collections between two or more components or devices which are designed to transfer several or all bits of a word from source to the destination. So at a time the devices may transfer all the bits. For example, if it is 8 bits, normally byte is 8 bits. Sometimes the computer or the system bus has the capacity to transfer 8 bit, more than 8 bit a time. For example, 16 bits together it may transfer. It could have the capacity to transfer that much data. Okay, like that. So it is a shared medium of information transferring one bit at a time. So system bus is actually meant for what? It is a what? It is a device or it is a component in a which is interconnecting the various components of a system where from the input device the information has to be flown or the data has to be sent to the memory. From the memory again the information has to be shifted to the output device, right? So there you require some interconnectivity, right? So it is a line, interconnecting line or component where the datas are carried. Okay, so it is a medium of information which is transferring how much bit at a time? One bit at a time. So thus to transfer 8 bits simultaneously over a bus, 8 lines are required. So there are chances, suppose if you want to shift, I mean so transferring one bit at a time means it is very slow, right? So it is having the option, or we are having the medium in such a way that at a time we can transfer 8 bit. So to transfer 8 bit at a time, how many interconnective lines are there? Transmission lines are there, 8 lines are there. Similarly, there may be also the option of 16 bit at a time you can transfer where you find 16 lines, okay, over a bus. It is like that. So it can be unidirectional or bidirectional. So what is that unidirectional? It means one way of transmitting the data. So unidirectional means, for example, from the input device the data flow to the memory only one way, and from the memory it may what the instruction flows to the output device. Okay, it is what unidirectionally flowing from input to memory and memory to output. Okay, whereas in bidirectional, what happens, input unit, output unit, from the memory to the memory and from the memory, like this the informations get what transmitted. Did you all understand? In shared bus, only one source can transmit data at one time, while one or more can receive that particular signal. So shared bus is nothing but where at a time only one of the source means it could be either memory, it could be either input output device, or simply the processor. Only one particular source can transmit the data. So and while one or more can receive that signal. So other peripherals or other components has to simply receive it but doesn't transfer. A bus that connects to all three components, that is CPU, the memory and the IO devices, is called as a system bus. So if you just check here, the shared bus is actually what getting connected to the CPU, memory and input output devices. Okay, so here this is our data transmission lines, where the lines could be at a time, if the information is converted to the machine level language, that is the data are converted to zeros and ones, or else we can also call as digital data. Digital data is nothing but zeros and ones, right? So at a time sending only one bit of data, either 0 or 1, it takes too much of time. So at a time you can send how many, 8 bit at a time, and you may require how many lines, 8 lines. Suppose if you want to increase the amount of bit sending at a time, you can also go with a 16 bit lines, or which one, more than 32 bit lines. Okay, 32 lines, 64 lines. Okay, nowadays the processors are all what, 64 bit processors, right? So where at a time they can carry that much of datas. So where they are carrying from the input devices to the memory. So from the memory, what the CPU is fetching to process the data, and as soon as it finish processing, it stores back to the memory, and from the memory where the output devices are given with the data. So this is with the importance of system bus. Okay, the bus that connects which three components, CPU, memory and output devices, are called system bus. And here this is a shared bus. So here in shared bus, one source can transmit data at one time. See, when input operation is happening, then only the data is what flown, or the data are transferred by the input unit device. And when some processing is happening, and if the CPU has finished processing, then at a time this bus is used to carry that data to get stored in the memory. That is the meaning. Okay, and very much important is you remember this. So every transfer of bit information is done with the help of a system bus. Whatever the data you transmit, either it could be 8 bit, 16 bit, 32 bit data, each bit of data are transferred over the system bus. Okay, and the system bus can have any, or the number of lines that exist to carry the bit, it may vary from 8 to 16 to 32 or to 64. Okay, so remember this definition, which is a very common question asked in part A, 2 marks. Okay. Then, as I told you, data lines. I told the system bus may have 8, 16 or 32 lines, or I can also state as separate lines. Okay. So what are these data lines? They provide a path for moving data between the system modules. So from the input device to the memory, from the memory to the output device, like this in and out flow of data is done with the help of these data lines. They are collectively called as what? Data bus. Suppose if your data bus consists of 8 bits or 8 lines, they are collectively called as what? Data bus. Similarly, if you are having 16 lines, then they are collectively called as data bus. Suppose if at a time your system is capable of transferring 32 bit of data, then 32 bit lines entirely form a data bus like this. So the number of lines present in the data bus is called the width of the data bus. So the width of the data bus will vary. It could be 8, could be 16 lines, or it could be 32 lines or 64. Did you all understand? So what is the meaning of lines here? They are the separate lines which are carrying the digital data. Okay, zeros and one data. The width of a data bus helps in determining the overall performance of a computer system. So how the width of the system bus is actually what I telling is actually deciding the performance of a computer system. See, if at a time only 8-bit datas are transferred, okay, the efficiency is not that higher. The fastness is not that extent. Similarly, if it is 16-bit, not too less, not too high. Whereas 32-bit, it is good. 64-bit, higher performance of execution, right? Like that. Okay, and you have a address bus, like how we have system bus, which is there to carry the data. You have address bus. So these lines, I mean, you are having certain lines like which the lines which are reserved to carry the data, the data lines which are there to carry only the address information, like that. Okay, so these address lines are used to designate the source of data bus. Okay, that is, address lines tell where exactly the data will be existing in the memory, so that that data can be fetched for the execution of the processor. So as the memory may be divided into a linear array of bytes or words, for reading or writing any information onto the memory, the CPU needs to specify the address of a particular location. So whenever the memory is divided, okay, in terms of bytes or words, either to read or to write any information. So reading the information from the memory or writing the information to the memory, the CPU has to specify in which particular address the information has to be, or from which particular memory location the information has to be read and the information has to be written. Okay. So this address is supplied by the address bus. So whatever the memory spaces you have, whatever the data you are storing, each memory location is having its own address, and that memory addresses are actually given by whom? By the address bus. Okay, and the address lines are collectively called as address bus. So together 8 it could be, or 16, 32 or 64 bit of lines it could be to carry the address information. So the lines which carry specifically the addresses are called as address bus, and address bit specifies the maximum possible memory supported by the system. So the width of the address lines tells how exactly, or the maximum possibility of the memory that is supported by the system. And finally the control line. So in the system bus we have three main lines. One is data lines, address lines and control lines. So control unit, you know what is the function of control unit. So control lines are also the same concept. They are used to control the access data and address bus, which is required as a bus in a shared medium. So even the control lines try to check whether the data are accessed by a proper authorized person, and the address bus, when you are fetching the data, whether the appropriate addresses are what given. All such things are what monitored or carried, controlled by control lines, and the control lines are collectively known as control bus. So these lines are used for transmission of commands and timing signals. So it will be telling you, giving you the reminder with respect to the time, okay, or the transmission of commands, whether it should be opening a file, closing a file, okay, removing the thing. All these instructions or the commands with respect to the resources what we are using. And timing signals indicate whether the data and address information is valid, whereas command signal specifies which operations are to be performed. So time signals indicate what? Whether the information, data and the address information are proper. For example, if it is a very recent data what you have taken from the memory, okay, and again the same information you want to view, open it again, yes, it will be there available in the which one cache memory or the recently accessed, whatever the processor has accessed recently, those data are kept in a memory or a buffer, and that is referred quickly. Did you all understand? So timing signals try to validate whether it was a recent information or not. Okay, whereas command signals, it specifies what type of operation has to be performed. Okay, so this is about the system bus, that is data lines, address bus or address lines, and control lines. See, this is a diagram, pictorial representation of a system bus. See, system bus as a whole. In this diagram, here you all are viewing the system bus. Here it is being separated by the address line, control lines, and data lines, right? All the components, CPU, memory, input, output, they are all connected with all the three lines. Okay, this diagram is very important. See that you understand these concepts very well and try to prepare a notes for this. If you are unable to understand, let me revise you this topic in the next class. Okay, it is a very important concept in FIT. Very commonly asked question in FIT is what? The system bus. And in our next class, we'll try to discuss much more in the computer organization and architecture chapter. Okay, till then, take a break for the next session and happy learning. Thank you all.